missed me so much when I was on maternity leave. You missed me so much. You missed fighting with me. Don't act like you missed fighting with me.
I did not miss you.
Okay,
All right, if you have the stomach and the self-control to be able to sit back and watch The View, you may have noticed that there's an open seat at that table since Meghan McCain quit over reports of bullying. Well, shocking nobody, the roundtable is struggling to find a permanent Republican co-host. I wonder why. Let's bring in our company to react, host of the Grace Curley Show, Grace Curley, along with business and market analyst Seth Denson. Good to see you all. Merry Christmas. Seth, I want to start with you. Meghan left that show after being bullied off and on air. I mean, who would possibly want the job?
Sean, I don't know. I mean, I think if you were asking me, I'd say perhaps being a dog in one of Dr. Fauci's testing labs sounds more appealing than maybe being the lone conservative on this show. I don't know. Earlier on this year, I was actually sick one day and I had to stay home, and I stumbled on this show. And I got to tell you, 5 minutes in, I was searching to see when he had the cyanide laying around the house. I mean, but listen, their viewership shows this too. Viewers don't want to see 4 liberals piling on a Republican. And when they're ratings do
I don't think
go
they
up,
want to
their
see 4
viewership
liberals.
is shown. If they have an actual conservative on and they're doing a dialogue, the show doesn't do all that poorly. But man, when it's just 4 people piling onto one, it doesn't do well, and nobody else wants that seat. I can understand why.
It's absolutely brutal just watching that clip with Meghan McCain. I mean, Grace, they sometimes have Republicans on the show like Ana Navarro. They've had MSNBC's Nicole Wallace. She was a co-host a few years ago. But those are not necessarily the faces that represent today's Republican base. Are they even trying to appeal to them? The ones that did do well, Condi Rice, Morgan Artigas, they're possibly too strong.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the interesting about this article is it describes that the producers of The View are looking for a unicorn. And I think that's the perfect way to describe it. They want to check all of these boxes. Like, you have to have credibility with Republicans, but you don't want to be too MAGA, and you don't want to be part of fringe conspiracy theories, which made me think, oh, what is a fringe conspiracy theory? Because a lot of these conspiracy theories, like the Wuhan lab leak theory, become true in a few days. So it's hilarious to me that they're trying to check all of these boxes to find this Republican host, and that's emblematic of the Democrats' problem. They try to check boxes, and they're going to end up with an unqualified person there who doesn't bring in the ratings. And isn't that just so typical of the left?
You know, Seth, I want to pick up on what Grace said because I think she's absolutely right. I mean, they literally, I did not think about it the way that Grace just described it. I think it's so spot on. They literally want to do what they do in this administration, check boxes. So they want somebody who says and thinks the following. They literally, in this article in Politico, describe it as a unicorn. And I just don't think that it's worth it. I don't understand. They're looking for something that doesn't exist. And then if they were to find anything even close, they're literally going to go through that person like a cheap tire. It's just going to fall right off the wheel. Because like everybody else, I mean, you go down the list, Meghan McCain, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, Abby Huntsman, people go there, they get treated horribly, and then months later leave, and then they can't keep looking at themselves, oh, go find another one.
Well, that's right. Grace is right. They don't want a conservative. They want a leftist Republican. And there's a difference there. Joe Manchin in female form would be too conservative for this show. And this show is called The View, not The Views. There's no plural there. They don't want more than one view on this show. And most conservative women who could hold their muster here would probably rather a double root canal with no Novocaine than go sit on the show and be beat up day in and day out. Meghan McCain's proof of that has been all the others that have filled that seat over the last number of years.
Well, like you just mentioned, you know, they've tested out Condoleezza Rice, Morgan Ortagus, among others. I'll put this question to both of you really quickly. Grace, starting with you, who do you think would be able to fill the hot seat?
I don't know. I mean, I do agree with all of you. I can't imagine someone who really values their own opinions and values nice discourse and discussion who would want to take that spot. They'd have to offer someone a ton of money. I mean, there's so many great conservative women out there. Libby Emmons, I know she's on Newsmax a lot. Carol Markowitz is great. But I just can't imagine someone sitting down and saying, oh, this is going to be really fun day in and day out. You all mentioned it. Meghan McCain did a great job. I mean, she brought a lot of interesting viewpoints. She's a true conservative. And they were so mean to her, just really like mean girl, almost high school, like catty. And so I don't know who would want to sit there every day and take this kind of behavior.
Well, what's Kellyanne Conway doing these days? She could go head to head.
She's tied up under contract now, but nonetheless, I think maybe Mercedes Schlett, maybe she could go in there a few rounds. But I think the key point is here, nobody wants to go into a bullied situation where you're not going to have an opportunity to give your voice and perhaps win the conversation or even lend to the conversation without getting pounded on by multiple people. And so whoever were to fill that role, and there's a lot of people that are certainly qualified to do it, they wouldn't want to, and they certainly wouldn't want to do it for more than maybe 1 or 2 days.
All right, so let me make this a little bit more personal. Grace, if they called you and said, Grace Curley, we'll do this, you can write the check, within reason, would you take the job?
I don't think I would. And you know why? I'm very sensitive. I don't think people would guess that about a lot of people who are, who are public figures in a certain sense and who do a lot of this. You can take a lot of criticism, but face to face every day with those women just yelling at me, I think I'd be coming home, calling my parents, being like, they're so mean to me. And my family would probably say, this is not good. At a certain point in life, you do have to put your mental health above a paycheck. And I think that's where a lot of people are at, where it's like, yeah, they can probably pay someone a lot of money, but do you want to sacrifice your happiness for that?
Yeah.
So Seth, if they could overlook the gender issue, would you? I think
it's
you,
2021,
hold
Sean.
your own. Would you do it?
Not a chance. I'd rather get a time machine, go back, and become the first mate on the Titanic than go sit on that stage more than, like I said, one show I'd do. More than one, not a chance.
Interesting. Well, I've been very intrigued in that. In some ways, I think it makes sense to put a conservative on there, but I agree with Grace. At some point, your mental health is worth something, and it's not that you can't take them. Because I watched Condi Rice, I watched Morgan Ortagus. I think, Grace, you would crush it. But I think it's not a question of winning it every day. I just don't think it's a healthy environment to walk in every day and have people make nonsensical arguments. Because when I have tuned in from time to time because I want to see a particular guest, they literally lie. They make completely ridiculous arguments. And I would sit there saying to myself, I feel like I'm having to do mental gymnastics every day, and it's just not healthy, and it's a waste of my time. So I agree with it on that sense. But anyway, it's been fun. Seth, Grace, thank you both very much for joining us. I hope you have a great New Year's if we don't see you again.
Happy New Year.